afternoon, everyone. Can we please have one more round of applause for our musicians? Grace Mayhew, Ryan Moore, and Seth Rupp. A hard act to follow, to be sure. Well, thank you all for being here this afternoon. And whether you're joining us here in Durham, I think we have about 220 people or so in the room today, or whether you're online from Manchester, Concord, or one of our 10 extension locations around the state. Thank you for joining me for my first State of the University address. So also I wanted to say thank you for the warm welcome and the support that Michael and I have received over the past 7.5 months. We've really had a warm welcome to the Wildcat community, and I've been inspired by the tremendous accomplishments of our great university, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, and of course I will continue to get to know all of you in the months and years to come. Everything that I've experienced over the past 7.5 months has reaffirmed my commitment to the University of New Hampshire. So today what I'd like to do is share my perspective on the current state of the university, but our strengths, our opportunities, and our challenges. And I'll also share the start of a strategic vision for our future. So my remarks today will touch on the work of so many faculty, staff, students, and leaders from across the university. I'm pleased to be joined by several of our deans and vice presidents this morning. Just give a little wave so everybody knows you're here, representing their colleges. I'm sure we have some department chairs in the audience here too, as well as a number of faculty, staff, and students. So this is really me presenting back to you a lot of the accomplishments over the past year. So before we get started, you'll notice around the room there are some QR codes. We will have Q&A at the end of my remarks. So we've collected over 100 in advance, and I have read through each and every one of them, and my team over here is going to help sort of categorize them. I will not make you sit through 100 questions and answers, but they do fall into categories, and the team will help sift through those. But if you didn't get a chance to submit in advance, you can do so using the QR codes around the room. So let's see. And I will turn to some of my colleagues here to help me answer some of those, because being new to the community, some of my colleagues have a lot more expertise in some of the topics that people were asking about. All right, well, let's get started by taking a moment to reflect on some of the successes of the past year. For the first time since 2017, enrollment is holding steady. And that is thanks to the efforts on the part of a number of our faculty and staff to increase access and affordability. A huge shout out to our enrollment management team and all of our faculty, staff, and current students involved in recruitment. Do I have any of our tour guides here by any chance? I got a chance to speak. Oh, yes. Hey, thank you for being here. Sorry for the singling you out. The poor woman is turning red. I had the chance to speak with about 100 of our current student tour guides, really inspiring from all ranges of here in Durham in particular. And they are really contributing a great deal to students joining our community and experiencing the transformative power of UNH education. So thank you. You can pass it along to the other 99 student tour guides. Really appreciate the work that you do. Students are choosing to attend UNH from destinations near and far. So for the fall 2024 incoming class, we had a slight increase in students joining us from the state of New Hampshire. But our student body still comes from 46 out of the 50 states in the United States, and also from 36 countries around the world. And we want to maintain that great diversity across our student body and across all of our campuses and locations. I also want to note that in this chart that the increase in total enrollment from 2022 to 2023, that orange piece represents students who joined us as part of the merger with Granite State College and are now part of the College of Professional Studies. I should also note this chart shows headcount enrollment, so while we're welcoming many new students to the Wildcat community, many of those students are enrolled in part-time studies. So there are a number of things that we're doing to ensure that our enrollment stays steady. First of all, last fall, we launched a pilot with Niche Direct Admissions. Niche is an app-based program that allows high school seniors who meet certain criteria to gain immediate acceptance into UNH. Direct admissions programs have become very popular in recent years as universities seek to increase their access, but also streamline the admissions process. Often the admissions process itself is an impediment to students or their families deciding that college is for them. So secondly, UNH, Keene State, and Plymouth State have partnered with the community college system of New Hampshire to create more than 100 new transfer pathways. These were announced in December. These will ease student transitions from associate degree programs at our community colleges and ensure that they can find a pathway to a bachelor's degree, maybe even a postgraduate degree at any number of our campuses, including UNH, because the goal is that we want to ensure that students have the opportunity to study, to stay, to live, and work in New Hampshire. And finally, we're seeing growth at UNH College of Professional Studies Online, led from our Manchester campus. Shout out to Dean Mike DeSell, who is here with us today. Fall registration is up 18.5% in credits year over year, and the number of new students and re-enrollees has also jumped. Over the past year, we've also made some significant capital improvements. You've probably been noticing them here on the Durham campus as you've walked around. This past September, we celebrated the grand opening of our Hamill Honors and Scholars College, made possible by a $20 million gift from longtime benefactor and UNH parent, Dana Hamill. This transformative gift expands our ability to identify, reach, and support high-achieving students from the state of New Hampshire. We also recently completed the renovation and expansion of Spalding Hall. This included upgrading 125,000 square feet of the building and creating 3 new specialized labs, helping us do our part to meet the state's growing need for the life sciences workforce. And then just a few weeks ago, students moved back into a fully renovated Hetzel Hall, located in the heart of downtown Durham. Hetzel Hall celebrated its 100th birthday. A fresh imagining of this iconic space feels fitting for its centennial. On the horizon, I'm pleased to share that the Board of Trustees recently gave approval for the construction of the NOAA Ocean Mapping Center of Excellence. This includes 35,000 square feet of business and industry co-location space. This facility, funded primarily from $25 million in federal grants and contracts, was made possible in part due to the incredible support from New Hampshire Senior Senator Jeanne Shaheen. It's a testament to our leadership and partnership with NOAA and demonstrates the university's commitment to industry collaboration. The building complex is intended to be an anchor project for a potentially larger innovation district on the west edge of campus, creating spaces and opportunities for students, scholars, entrepreneurs, and technicians, and a place to share ideas, equipment, and resources, and create needed products and services to serve the state and the nation. We're currently in the RFP stage for a master developer for this larger project, and we hope that this will help us identify a partner that will assist in bringing this long-standing idea to reality. I look forward to sharing an update with you in the weeks ahead. The Edge Innovation District is one way that UNH is putting a stake in the ground and emphasizing our commitment to commercialization, workforce development, and industry growth. UNH Innovation, in partnership with our marketing department, recently created a video that tells this story a lot better than I can.
Between mountains and main streets, around the corner or across the ocean, innovation thrives. Here at the University of New Hampshire, companies of all sizes find the space to accelerate and collaborate in an environment designed for growth. We are champions of ideas, humble, bold, novel, cutting edge. Practical dreamers who relentlessly pursue tomorrow's solutions. We believe in new ways and better ways. We put our shoulder into it and get our hands dirty. This is innovation that plants roots, prepares your next hire. So, when the question is, where can we build it, test it, hire, research, network? Your solution is here. Join us at the University of New Hampshire. Innovation made in New Hampshire.
Really, kudos to UNH Innovation Group and our marketing department. That video gave me chills when I saw it last week. I was like, I want to go to University of New Hampshire. Oh, wait a minute, I'm already here. You know, just really demonstrates the power of innovation and shows that we're dedicated to this idea, this concept of idea to impact. I think that's really what I have learned over the 7.5 months that I've been here, is that really captures for me, idea to impact, it really captures for me the spirit of UNH. We take that knowledge we develop and we help bring it to the world to benefit society, and that's at the core of our designation by the Carnegie Foundation as an engaged university. That's at the core of what that designation means, whether it's our teaching, our scholarship, or our engagement with communities outside of the university. Driven by the expertise and the innovation of our dedicated faculty, postdocs, and graduate students, UNH's research portfolio grew demonstrably over the past year. Our land, sea, and space grant designations demonstrate UNH's commitment to discovering solutions to some of the world's greatest challenges, from the depths of the ocean to the vastness of space, as well as across all of our schools, colleges, and extension centers across the state. UNH was awarded more than $252 million in competitive research grants in the fiscal year 2024, supporting nearly 1,000 projects that aim to solve problems and improve lives across the globe and here at home. For example, this past year, UNH researchers participated in the first scientific expedition to reach a remote, previously unmapped Arctic region in North Greenland. UNH archaeologist Eleanor Harrison Buck and her team discovered a large-scale pre-Columbian fish trapping facility in Belize that predates previously known examples of such fisheries by 1,000 years or more. And at the UNH Aquafort off the coast of Newcastle, our faculty and staff are farming steelhead trout, kelp, and blue mussels side by side with area fishermen to revolutionize local aquaculture practices in New Hampshire. Sustainability is another one of our top research strengths and a core priority at UNH. It is vital to our educational programming and informs every aspect of our daily operations. I'm delighted to share that for the third time, UNH has renewed our STARS Platinum rating, and that we are now the only institution in New England and one of just 8 in the country to hold this highest possible rating for our sustainability practices. Achieving this level of recognition is truly a group effort, and I would like to thank Fiona Wilson and the team at the Sustainability Institute for their leadership in this process. I'm so proud to be part of a community dedicated to improving lives and creating a vibrant, resilient campus, state, and future. UNH philanthropic efforts have been instrumental to many of the improvements, initiatives, and achievements that I've shared with you so far today. Our university advancement team is deeply committed to elevating and enriching our community's educational experience, and I'm incredibly thankful for their dedication and their time. We're entering the final year of our 7-year fundraising campaign, and the results have been extraordinary. To date, we have raised $330 million, surpassing the $308 million raised in the previous campaign. With just a few months to go, our goal is to hit $350 million by June 1st and close out this chapter on a high note. A significant portion of these funds, $108 million, has gone towards scholarships and financial aid for students. And while $116 million has supported groundbreaking research and academic programs. More than 46,000 donors have rallied behind us, with 64 individuals contributing $1 million or more. The annual fund has been especially powerful, uniting alumni, parents, and friends to raise over $47 million during the campaign. Looking forward, we're gearing up to the quiet phase of our next 7-year campaign, which will launch on July 1st. The philanthropic priorities for that campaign will be anchored by the insights that we gain through our strategic planning process, and I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a bit. But first, I want to brag on our students and our alumni. Last year, 30 students earned national fellowships, including rising junior Elizabeth Pettit, who is the recipient of the NOAA Ernest F. Hollings Undergraduate Scholarship, which will support her career aspirations to make seafood systems more resilient to the impacts of climate change. Derek Parham and Ben Hogan, 2 mechanical engineering students, received prestigious Department of Defense SMART scholarships for their academic excellence in STEM disciplines. 3 UNH graduate students and 2 alumni received the prestigious National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowships, and 18 undergraduates earned the State Department's Gilman Scholarships, allowing them to study internationally at destinations around the globe. Just last week, the UNH women's swimming and diving teams received the Scholar All-America Award, awarded by the College Swimming and Diving Coaches Association of America. This award honors programs that achieve the highest standards in the classroom and in the pool. I think they were not able to be here. They're probably swimming or studying, one or the other, or both at the same time, but kudos, women swimmers and divers. Dylan Lauby, class of 23, was drafted by the LA Raiders, officially launching his professional football career and fulfilling a dream to play in the NFL, a dream that began when Lauby was 5 years old. And UNH alum Scott Poteet was the lead pilot on the Polaris Dawn mission, a partnership with SpaceX that traveled nearly 900 miles into space, the farthest distance since the Apollo program. Our students and alumni are truly reaching for the stars. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. These are just a handful of the incredible accomplishments of the Wildcat community. Every member of our community plays a part in these successes, and I'd like to ask you to give yourselves, your colleagues, and our students a round of applause. So while it is important for us to take a moment to celebrate our successes, I want to acknowledge the significant headwinds that we face as an institution, but also as part of higher education writ large. Even though I've been with you for 7.5 months, a lot of the challenges that we face in higher ed have been with us for some time, and I experienced different versions of them at previous institutions. Last week, we shared that our fiscal year 26 budget projections indicate a deficit of $15 to $20 million. This gap results from several challenges on both the revenue side and the expense side. First of all, as a highly tuition-dependent university, we're doing everything we can to maintain enrollment levels. Demographic declines, though, and the questioning of the value of a college degree make our ability to do so challenging and uncertain in the years ahead. We anticipate also a reduction in the state appropriation as New Hampshire grapples with its own budget deficit. And benefits, costs, and inflation have also exacerbated our budget shortfall. As we navigate these challenges, our priority, and my priority, is to make strategic, thoughtful decisions that uphold the university's core academic mission. And rather than implementing across-the-board budget reductions, we're taking a collaborative and holistic approach to explore a range of potential budget scenarios. Fortunately, we have hired a stellar executive vice president for finance and administration, Erin Howell. Erin, give a little wave there. Erin has been with us 2 months, barely 2 months. And I know he is going to help us bring a great deal of transparency, stability, and he brings a wealth of experience to our financial operations. But Erin cannot do this work alone. I wish that he could print money, but apparently that's not one of his skill sets. Erin and I are working closely with our deans and with our vice presidents to begin developing innovative, sustainable solutions that support our core mission. We're in the early stages of this work. It actually took Erin and I a little bit of time to figure out what we were looking at, and there are still some pieces, including the state budget, that we don't know the full response on those. So my intention is to work closely with the full community, including the faculty and staff and student senates through this process this year, but also beyond. And I know that was one of the questions that came up frequently in the previously submitted questions, so I'm sure I'll get into that a little more. But we're dedicated to open communication, to transparency, and your engagement are going to be essential as we work together to navigate this period thoughtfully and responsibly. Another challenge I know is on everyone's minds is the uncertainty coming from Washington, D.C. These last few weeks have been a whirlwind, and I know the breadth of policy changes, court rulings, and press coverage is leading to insecurity and concern throughout our community. Our leadership team, our legal counsel, and relevant campus offices are closely reviewing federal guidance to assess the potential on our students, the potential effects on our students, our faculty, staff, and programs, including our Office of Research, diversity and inclusion efforts, campus policies, and visa processes. I want to thank Nadine Petty for leading an info session last week on these issues, and Marion McCord for doing the same just yesterday, I believe. Hundreds of you participated in these calls. I think almost 1,000 people were on these calls, both combined. And I appreciate the questions and the engagement that's coming from our community. Many of the colleagues who were on those calls are here today, and we'll continue to try our best to answer your questions and provide guidance throughout this shifting landscape. I also want to touch on the work conducted by the working group on freedom of speech and expressive activities. First, my sincere thanks again to Nadine Petty and the entire working group. While, of course, I was not there, I was not here on May 1st, it is clear that what transpired that day has rocked our community. I've had many conversations with faculty, staff, and students about what happened that day. The recommendations of the working group are going to prove critically important as we work towards greater clarity and consistency in supporting freedom of speech, regardless of the content. As an educational institution, open dialogue and freedom of speech and expression are the very foundation of our mission. We'll keep the university community informed as we work through the various facets of this work, which will be ongoing, as I indicated in my memo to you all last week. Through all of our challenges, UNH remains committed to our mission of teaching, research, service, upholding academic freedom and scientific inquiry, and fostering a culture of belonging as we navigate these changes. It is these values and priorities that bring me to our strategic plan. As you know, our current strategic plan sunsets at the end of this semester. Strategic plans are critical roadmaps for the institution. They're a concrete way to set priorities and a way to hold ourselves accountable for ongoing assessment and forward momentum. For our next strategic plan, I want us to ask ourselves, what do we want UNH to be in 2030? And as someone who went to college in the 80s, 2030 sounds like science fiction. But it will be here before you know it. That's 5 years from now. Our strategic planning committee includes faculty, staff, and students from all 3 of our campuses and is led by interim provost Cindy Gruden and chief marketing officer Daniela O'Neill. They have begun their work and will engage the entire university community, including our 3 campuses and our extension offices throughout the semester. The plan will have 4 distinct pillars, and I want to give you a preview of how this is shaping up, at least at this point. So first of all, UNH will be a first choice destination for students seeking public higher education in New England. While we are already a top first choice destination for many students, how do we expand both the number as well as the diversity of our student body, both undergraduate and graduate students? Secondly, UNH has distinct interdisciplinary educational programs and research strengths. While we will always be a comprehensive university with strength in the arts, the humanities, the sciences, and the professional schools, we also have distinctive nationally and internationally recognized strengths, including, but not limited to, our scholarship in land, sea, and space science, sustainability, and advanced manufacturing. So how do we identify those transdisciplinary, those interdisciplinary nodes that really stretch across a number of colleges and programs on our campus? Third, UNH demonstrates a commitment to well-being and belonging. This focus centers on strengthening and promoting UNH and the towns that we are embedded in as a welcoming and supportive community in which to live, learn, and work. Excuse me one second. I could certainly say that I have found it to be a welcoming and supportive community, but how do we make sure that we're making good on that and that we're evaluating all of the ways that we can continue to strengthen? And last but not least, UNH will demonstrate our impact on the state. We are recognized for the work we do to support New Hampshire's strong economy and quality of life. We need to continue to build on those strengths and highlight how UNH's contributions support our state's priorities. I encourage you to visit the 2030 Plan website. It's pretty easy URL down there on the bottom. And throughout the semester, there'll be more opportunities for deeper engagement, including the committee is planning on listening sessions in March and in April. And the completion of the strategic plan could not be more timely as we aim to welcome a new provost in July. Stay tuned for the announcement of the finalist interviews for that position coming up in really just the next few weeks. So as we look to the future, I am personally filled with hope and a sense of purpose. We're at a pivotal moment in our university's history, and I don't want to minimize the challenges ahead. Our future will be shaped by our collective strengths, our resilience, and our unwavering commitment to our students, to each other, and to our state. The vision that we're crafting for 2030 is one of possibility, where our students continue to thrive, our research makes an even stronger impact, and our community stands stronger than ever before. But none of this can happen without all of you, our students, our faculty, staff, also our alumni, and our supporters who believe in what we do. Overall, challenges and all, the state of our university is strong, and I personally believe it is a great day to be a Wildcat. Thank you. Thank you all very much for listening to that preamble. And over the last few weeks, I think, as I mentioned, and throughout the event, in fact, I'm sure there have been more questions coming in, we've been soliciting questions, and I've asked Tom and Tanya to sort through these, and as I said, they really fell into some pretty clear major categories. So I'll do the best to answer what I can, and I may also look to some of my colleagues who are here today to help in their particular areas of expertise. So if you have questions now, you can continue to submit them via the QR code, and I'll turn it over to the two of you for whoever would like to ask the first question.
Great. Executive orders are significantly changing everything from teaching and supporting our students from vulnerable communities to research funding. And since the legality of many of these executive orders is being challenged, the ground may constantly shift for the foreseeable future. How will the university act ethically according to our stated values when faced with outside forces that disagree with those values? And another person asked, with the recent legislation and executive orders being introduced, should we be concerned about programs being limited at UNH, like OCED, the Beauregard Center, SHARP, et cetera?
Okay. Well, thank you for that question. It sounds like you have a cold today. Do you have a cold? Sorry. We won't make you talk too much. We'll make Tom talk more. You know, I really appreciate that question. Obviously, as I said in my remarks, all of us have been watching the news, and it seems like it changes day to day. I've also been following what the ACE, the American Council on Education, the APLU, the Association for Public and Land-Grant Universities, 22 states had lawsuits about the NIH indirect cost recovery changes. So a lot of these are being battled out in the courts right now, and it's difficult to know. There are various stays. So I appreciate that Chad and Nadine, as I mentioned earlier, and Marion have been holding these info sessions to let you all know at least what we know and what we don't know. And we'll continue to do that. But Chad, who represents our legal counsel for the system, I don't know if you'd want to say a few words about the work that you and our colleagues have been doing to just keep everyone as informed as possible.
I will do my best.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chad Pimentel. I'm the Systems General Counsel. I've been trying to preface everything I say on this subject with an anecdote, which is that 2 times in the last 2 weeks, I've been in meetings on one or the other of these executive orders, and things that I've said at the start of the meeting have been rendered incorrect or irrelevant by the end of the meeting by things that have happened in the outside world. So this is the today at right now version of this, and I hope that people will understand if there's changes down the road. To the question of how do we try to respond to these things while staying true to our values, I think what we've been trying to do in the response overall is to respond in a mindful way. What we've been seeing as these orders have come out and then the subsequent court actions is that the initial headlines aren't necessarily the requirements that legally apply to us when you break it down. So I'll use one of the DEI orders as an example. I do think that has a lot of effect on how the federal government itself is going to conduct its business. When you look at the parts, at least as best we can tell from the order and the guidance that's out there now, how it applies to us and the programs that we fund ourselves, a lot of it boils down to we have to follow federal anti-discrimination law. We've always had to follow federal anti-discrimination law. Now, we need to be mindful about making sure that we have our arms around the programs that we are participating in, the benefits of them, whether, how it does or doesn't align with some of the guidance that's coming down. But that doesn't mean pulling the switch on programs based on headlines, because what we've seen is if that decision will be wrong by the end of the meeting. So I also want to point out there's a tension there, right? Things are changing very quickly, and we're trying to move mindfully, meaning that there's going to be some gap in there where something has changed and we won't have done anything yet. That's because we're trying to just get past the headline, go through the order, see what happens in the courts. There'll be similar things happening. We expect agency guidance from Health and Human Services, Department of Education, Department of Justice over the next 30 to 90 days. There'll be more headlines. There'll be a lot more for us to digest. We just ask your patience and understand that one of the reasons we are going slowly, more slowly than some other places, is we can be mindful and do the best we can to follow any new actual obligations that are on us, but trying to balance our values against the risks that we spot from whenever it comes down the path. And that's a conversation that involves not just General Counsel's office, but the rest of the university.
Chad, can I just follow up? The AAUP made a statement with some guidance urging universities to not do anything preemptive that might undermine commitment to values of access and inclusion in particular. Is that something too that is guiding as we're thinking through? Of course, we always want to make sure we're complying with federal law and state law, but at the same time, not overcompensating by preemptively doing things that, as I say, might undermine our own values and mission.
Yeah, and again, that goes to the idea of trying to be mindful about the guidance and making sure we take the time to parse what is a headline versus what is an obligation versus the hard work of trying to balance our mission and making sure that we can carry through without running afoul of any of those obligations.
All right, thank you.
Many questions about the budget situation. So combining two of them here. One, what are the university's plans for creating a sustainable, fair, and most importantly, transparent budget model? And two, how are you harnessing the institutional knowledge from faculty and staff to provide information and assist with the collaborative and holistic approach?
Right, well, thank you. And you're gonna have to cut me off to stop talking about this if I go on too long, because I actually think that how a university budgets, over at Paul Creative Arts Center, it says, university's budget is a reflection of its values, right? Am I quoting it correctly or pretty close to that? University budgeting sounds like the most boring part of any president's job or any administrator's job, but I assure you it is not, because you can have all the strategic plans in the world, but if you don't have a way to figure out how you're going to support those strategic priorities, it's fiction. And so this is a really critical point in our history. Of course, Aaron and I, when we were both hired, didn't necessarily know the university, of course. We didn't know the university's culture. We didn't know the university's finances. There's a lot of things we're both going to learn every single day. Some really great surprises and some maybe not as great surprises. And so Aaron and I, even throughout the process where I was interviewing Aaron for this position, we both come from a perspective where the priority is transparency in budget decisions, which is that you have an annual process where there is input from programs and that there is transparency in understanding all the revenues that come into the university and where all the costs are incurred, and discussions that happen not just in the academic schools and colleges, but in that everyone understands and has an opportunity to have input in our research office, in our marketing office, in advancement, in the president's office, and that there's transparency and discussion about how we meet our strategic priorities given the resources we have. And that's what Erin and I would like to engage the community on building next semester, having the Workday tools. I know there have been bumps in the road on Workday, but without Workday Adaptive Module, I don't believe that we could get to the kind of real-time strategic budget, or something like it. I don't own stock in Workday, but you need tools. Like a dean needs to be able to see in real time what are the revenues that have come in, what are the costs I've already incurred, how do I inform decisions to make sure that I'm maximizing the strategic pieces of budgeting. So that we'd like to reinvigorate the Budget Planning Advisory Group. Is that the name of the committee that the Faculty Senate had made a resolution earlier this year? We'd like to resurrect that group, and the next academic year, build a more transparent process that's more strategic, that will be ongoing, not just to address this immediate shortfall. For this one, we're building a budget for FY26 that we have to submit by April 1st. Is that correct, Erin? Yeah. So that's 6 weeks or so. And so what we've asked the deans, the vice presidents, and other members of the cabinet is to present their budgets in a kind of informal budget hearings. We'll be also talking with faculty senate, student senate, staff senate, councils to get input on big ideas, not just reducing everybody little bit by little bit, but are there some opportunities for increasing revenues in some areas, for reducing costs, letting go of one thing so that we can move in another. And I'm not talking about elimination of academic programs. I really want to try to preserve academic programs as much as possible, because that is the core of our mission as an institution. Often universities go that way first because the colleges, there's a lot of activity going on in our colleges, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're not reducing the quality of our academic mission for our students, which is, the primary reason we're here. And as a tuition-dependent institution also, people are not going to want to come here if we're reducing the quality of the programs and the degrees that they're receiving. So there'll be a short-term, we'll be engaging in a process over the next 6 weeks to get our budget in, and then we'll be working on a longer-term process that will really be part of an annual assessment and goal setting and priority setting and evaluation. The most important part is that in the end, while the deans and the vice presidents help inform decision making, and I will work closely with the provost and the EVP for finance and administration, in the end, the president needs to be held accountable for the decisions that come out, and I will take full responsibility for the decisions that come out of the budget process. If it's good news, I'll say it was the team, and if it's bad news, I will take responsibility because I think that's really important, because the cabinet and the deans may not agree with each other. In fact, I'm sure they will not, but they need to advise me and the provost and Erin so that we can make the most informed decisions, so that even if we don't all agree at the end, everyone understands what the factors were that led to a decision, and hopefully we can all get behind the university. I told Tom not to ask a long question about budgets because I knew I would go on too long. Sorry.
I have a short one for you. Given recent inflation, will there be a cost of living adjustment implemented this year?
Yeah, so I am going to turn to Erin to ask him more about that. We have been planning to include some level of cost of living adjustment for faculty and staff. Despite the fact that we're having a shortfall in FY26 budget, I think we need to make sure we're treating our current faculty and staff as well as we can, and I know that that's been something that was expected. So I'm going to ask you, Erin, to say a little more about what the planning is and the timing.
Hi, everybody. I'm Aaron. So it is a balance in trying to make sure that we've got good data collected to ensure that whatever decisions we make put us in the right position by the end of the year. We have something some of you may be familiar with. It's called R+30. It's basically once our spring enrollment numbers are finalized, we know then we can derive from that what our revenue will be for spring term, and that really gets the majority of our revenue in for the fiscal year, and we can make a final decision there. We are, as the president said, committed to that. It is in our FY25 budget, so as long as things are progressing in the direction that we go, we definitely want to try to change compensation in a positive direction for everybody. And we should be able to make that decision hopefully within the next month.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll switch topics. In your response to the working group's report, you said that there was no basis for the claims that UNH PD actions on May 1st were unlawful or that officers submitted false claims in court reports. How did you arrive at this determination? Did you personally view the police reports and affidavits submitted by the officers? Did you compare those reports with video evidence of what was actually documented to have happened on May 1st?
So first and foremost, I want to say that this topic of what happened on May 1st is the #1 topic that I get asked about or emailed about or have had come up in conversations. And that's why I said in my initial remarks that it's clear that this really rocked our community, and many are still reeling from the effects that it had on our climate overall. What I will say, of course, this happened months before I was here. I sometimes wish that I was here on May 1st, so that I could have been here in person to see what was happening, but also to hear all the conversations that must have happened among administrators so that I could be sort of have a more first-person view on the events of that day, even though it would still be only my view. It at least would have been a first-hand view. So my perspective is informed by many, many conversations, by watching videos, both body cam and other videos, the report on the working group, and all of the reports that I could get my hands on. And I am myself not a lawyer. I do not have the authorization to make judgments on legal matters, but I do know that many lawyers were involved, attorneys, judges, also counsel for those arrested. And it was, none of that evidence to me showed that there was reason to believe that there was something illegal that had happened or that there had been false statements given. Now, there is still the opportunity to, through the judicial system, make complaints if folks feel that this is not accurate, and that is always an opportunity that individuals or groups can take. But what I really charge the working group, you will probably see on the charge, it's on the website, so I really wanted to look at all of our policies and procedures to make sure that regardless of content of any protest or expressive activity, that we are clear, consistent, and value neutral on what that event is. I think that the working group pointed out a number of ways that we could do better to be clear about what are permitting processes, under what conditions would a permit be revoked, what are the trainings that our UNH PD and the Durham police go through. We're going through, Aaron and I are going to work with them to understand what are their current trainings and are there ones that we would recommend so that we can make sure we're moving towards de-escalation. I've asked our Vice President for Student Life, Ken Holmes, to look at our policies and procedures for engaging so that we can have them, my colleagues there, be the first point of communication rather than bringing in the UNHPD in certain situations. So really looking at it more holistically and looking forward, which is what I think our community needs to heal at this point. And I just want to say that website will keep live with updates. So I said in my last email to you all last week, we were going to look at the trainings that the police currently do receive. So once we go through those, we'll update there and let you know if we're making recommendations for changes either in student life procedures, UNHPD procedures, et cetera. We'll let you know. if we're looking at changes there.
Thank you. Are there any plans to reopen Stillings Dining Hall? Some believe that the student body could benefit from a third dining hall option. We also received a few questions about the quality of food in the dining halls, and perhaps these could be addressed together.
I'm going to have to turn this one to you, Ken. I don't know how to answer. I don't know if there are plans to reopen Stillings, so.
Good afternoon, everybody. To date, there are no plans to open Stillings Dining Hall. What we have, or what we realize, is that between the two current halls that are open, we are able to feed all of the students and faculty and staff who want to eat on campus. Regarding the dining, the menus, every 2 weeks there is a meeting with the executive director and the chef and teams to talk about dining in Lambert Hall. And so you are welcome to be at those meetings, and I'll make sure that Dora gives you the times that those meetings happen. So short answer, no plans right now to open Stillings Dining Hall.
Another perhaps current hot button, several questions related to recent winter weather and safety around campus. For example, in the past few years, UNH hasn't always done a great job clearing walkways, and it seems this year has been particularly worse. Another wrote, the roads have not been safe multiple times this semester, and by not curtailing, the university may be putting commuters, professors, faculty, staff at risk. Can you share more information about what goes into making curtailment decisions?
Yes. I will turn this over to Aaron in a minute because his group is he oversees facilities and campus safety in general. You know, this is something that I've been involved in at a previous institution. It's always a really tough call about closures in particular. When you have a number of students on campus, but then you have faculty and staff and other students off campus and judging roadway safety at multiple locations. So I asked Aaron to tell me, you know, what goes into these decisions so that when people ask me, you know, he said, I'll call you at 4:30 in the morning if you want me to, but he's got a good system, I think, and I'm hoping you could share that.
Yeah, thanks. First, let me talk about campus safety when we're walking around campus and driving around campus. What I will say is it's, you know, perspective of everybody contributes to the reality. We know that there are times where some spaces on campus may not get as cleared as optimal. I do want to say at the beginning that it's through no lack of trying. When snow falls on campus, it is an all hands on deck effort. All of our folks are contributing to that. Our cadre of student workers help us with that. And so we do work really, really hard to try to make campus as safe as possible. We know sometimes that there are places that are shaded or whatever and don't get cleared as much as we would like. When you find those places, we do want to know about those. We have a few places that are on our kind of frequent areas that we're paying attention to, you know, whether it's a downhill and a slope or whatever. So as you come across those ideas, please do submit those through a facilities ticket, or, you know, worst case, you can email or call me, and I will pass it on to the team and make sure they get checked out on there. Now, as far as the curtailment decisions, again, this is an area I wish we could be perfect on. We can't. We do work really hard, too, in this area to try to make it an informed decision. I speak with our chief of police and our AVP for facilities. And most cases, when we know there's a big storm coming, we've got a broader group that we engage in a meeting beforehand just to know what they're seeing from their perspective. We use the latest weather data. I'm going to say this last time when we curtailed last week in the middle of the day, that weather turned on us a little bit and we didn't get a great decision out there. And so we know that that was not optimal. I'll apologize for that. We've got, luckily, another opportunity to get better at it, I think, in the next 36 hours. I'll let you know again, tomorrow we're having a stakeholder meeting with folks that are help us make that decision for campus. And we're going to do our very best to make a better decision for Thursday. And then I think maybe Sunday we got another one after that. So
Wow.
Thank you for your patience. And, you know, again, more information is better. Always happy to hear feedback.
Aaron, you moved to us from down south, you know, and you brought all this snow. You brought all this snow with you.
Last question. How is UNH working to prepare students for a world in which AI is ubiquitous in most professional contexts? How are we addressing the issues of affordability and equity with respect to the tools that are available through educational licenses for our faculty, staff, and students? And how are we providing a policy and practical context to ensure data privacy and use of these tools?
Okay. I, give a little preamble, and then I'm going to ask our interim provost, Cindy Gruden, to share some of the work that she's been working on. By way of a preamble, right before I left my previous institution, about a year before I left, I realized that institution really, we had lots of faculty working with the AI. Our research office was interested in how we address research integrity. We had our provost office looking at academic integrity, but there were, 1,000 points of light, lots of people all over working on things, but not in a coordinated fashion. And so I had brought a committee together that included, what are the research integrity and research opportunities? What are the academic integrity and pedagogical opportunities? Because, I know some folks who have children in middle school who are using it as part of assignments. And so how do we think of it as a pedagogical tool and not just concerns about academic integrity, although that too, of course. And then also, how do we use it in our operations? What are ways that AI can be used in ways that maintain our security of information? Because of course, cybersecurity is really critically important, but at the same time, are there ways we could use it in admissions, et cetera? So that group was set up about a year before I left, and when I came here, I realized that we were sort of in the same place, where we had lots of activity, lots of people with expertise, and lots of people who were engaging in AI, but not a sort of university-wide coordinated effort. So I had asked our outgoing provost, Wayne Jones, to put together, and he did pull together a short report right before he left. We also learned the Faculty Senate was standing up a group to look at this from faculty perspective. And so I asked Cindy Gruden to just update you on what both of those pieces are looking like now. And then our hope is that we can sort of move forward and include a broader group to look at this more holistically.
I think you just said it all. I'm just kidding.
Oh, did I?
Hi, everybody. Cindy Gruden, Interim Provost. So as President Chilton indicated, there's a lot of activities going on in the AI space, and have been for a long time, in research and in teaching. I myself have been part of conversations in the last year with teachers who are including AI in their classrooms, sharing best practices. We do have some resources that are out there. The Teaching and Learning Hub has a page dedicated to AI. It talks about syllabus statements you can use depending on how you want AI used in your classroom. It has lots of best practices in there, so that's one resource that's out there. I'm excited to see the Faculty Senate Committee on AI coming together. I'm also very excited to see their charge, because their initial charge is to look at the policies that are existing all over our campus, because there are some cropping up. There's a system-level policy, and individuals have policies in different spaces. I think one of the things that we want to be paying attention to is how these policies come together, how they differ, and what policies we should have going forward, and that Faculty Senate Committee is charged with that work, and whatever other work they uncover. That, as you know, Faculty Senate is a representative body, and so that will help us to actually have more input from across the campus community. And the last thing I'll talk about is ETNS. On the technology side, there's been a lot of work on AI. There is a server node that they've put up that is AI-focused, that allows us to do some chatbot work. There's some folks on campus who've developed specific chatbots for work. For example, you might have seen, I don't know if it's on this campus, but other campuses, like a calculus chatbot, so you can reach out to ETNS and train a chatbot to help you do your work. Probably more importantly, what the server helps us to do is to keep our data secure. When you're logging into AI, right, it gets a lot of your demographic information. This server keeps that information on our campus. If we're doing AI-related research or teaching, it keeps it here to make sure that that data is secure. There's lots of other possibilities with that server, depending on what investments we can make into the future in the AI space. You should know that the ETNS puts out a call for proposals every year. There was a proposal specifically related to AI, and those proposals are being investigated this spring for funding as well. And there are proposals from across our campus in the enrollment space, in the teaching space, in the research data space, lots of opportunities for us to receive funding to help support our AI efforts. So thank you.
We are at time.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. I'm sorry I could not get to the 100 questions, but we will go through them, and if there are categories of things that we really feel like we should have tried to answer in this space, we will make sure that we're responding there. Those of you who have emailed me and my colleagues here know that we try to be as absolutely responsive as we can. If you have a particular question that was burning that you didn't get answered, please do reach out. And we'll respond just as quickly as we can. So thank you all for being here, and have a great rest of the week. Stay safe out there in the snow.